Mr. Worthy? You can take a seat, Mr. Worthy.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men, although I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Bolton has. We work together, in fact. However, I'm quite willing to enter your name, should your answers be what a really affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit, I do smoke.
I am glad to hear it. A gentleman should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. I have always been of the opinion that a man who desires to get married should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I am pleased to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate, exotic fruit. Touch it, and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England, at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a serious danger to the upper classes and probably lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
In investments, chiefly.
That is satisfactory. What between the duties expected of one during one's lifetime and the duties exacted of one after one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one station and prevents you from keeping it up. That's all that can be said about land.
I do own a country house with some land, of course, attached to it. About 1,500 acres, I believe. But I don't depend on that for my real income. In fact, as far as I can make out, the poachers are the only ones who make anything of it.
A country house. How many bedrooms? Well, that can be straightened out later. You do own a townhouse, I hope? A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature, like Gwendolyn, could hardly be presumed to live in the country.
I do own a house in Belgrave Square, but it is let out by the year to Lady Bloxham. I can, of course, have it back whenever I like at 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham? I don't know her.
She goes about very little. She is a lady considerably advanced in years.
Well, nowadays, that is no guarantee of respectability of character. What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
The unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, that could easily be altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both, if necessary, I presume. What are your politics?
I'm afraid I have none, really. I'm a liberal unionist.
Oh, they count as Tories. They dine with us, or come in the evening at any rate. Now to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I have lost both my parents.
To have lost one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be deemed a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father? He was evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers refer to as the purple of commerce? Or did he rise from the ranks of the aristocracy?
I'm afraid I really don't know. The fact is, Lady Bracknell, I said I'd lost both my parents. It would be nearer the truth to say that both my parents seem to have lost me. I don't actually know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
The late Mr. Thomas Cardew, an older gentleman of a very charitable and kindly disposition, found me and gave me the name Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It's a seaside resort.
And where did this charitable gentleman with a first-class ticket to the seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. I was in a handbag. A rather large black leather handbag with handles to it. An ordinary handbag, in fact.
And where did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station?
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial, Mr. Worthy. I confess I feel somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate bred in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life that reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to. As to the bag was found, the cloakroom at a railway station might serve to conceal a social indiscretion. Probably has, indeed, been used for that purpose before this, but it can hardly be regarded as an assured basis for a good position in...
May I ask then what you would advise me to do? I need hardly say I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce at any rate one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
Well, I don't see how I could possibly manage to do that. I can produce a handbag at any moment. It's in my dressing room back home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What is it to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell would dream of allowing our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to form an alliance with the cloakroom, to marry into a parcel. Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
I do. I need hardly say Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and obtain some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce at any rate one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
Well, I don't see how I could possibly manage to do that. I can produce the handbag at any moment. It's in my dressing room back home. I can produce the handbag at any moment. It's in my dressing room back home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What is it to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell would allow our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to form an alliance with a cloakroom, to marry with a parcel. Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Good morning.